Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the Adventure Prep stream. It is Tuesday afternoon. I'm getting started a little later than normal, but it's probably going to be a shorter stream, so that is all to the good. Let me know if you can see me and hear me, okay? Yeah, we are working on some Adventure Prep this week. We are going back to a campaign I haven't prepped on stream in a while. This is Mansion Heist, my sort of kid-friendly adaptation of Waterdeep Dragon Heist. We have some interesting stuff to prep today, kind of four individual little topics. One of them is about Jarl Axel, one of them is about a mind flayer named Nilhoon, one of them is about the Xanathar. Hey, Castle Red Fox, thanks for coming. And one of them, the big ticket item today, is that one of my 11-year-old players asked Laurel Silverhand on a date. For those of you who don't know, Laurel Silverhand is the open lord of Waterdeep, and the player is 11. Hey, what's up, Swargula? Season here's all right. That's great. Thanks for coming, everybody. I'll move my mic a little closer, see if that helps. I try not to put it like right near my face because I find that then I tend to get really loud. But yeah, it's great that everybody's here. Yeah, so Laurel Silverhand agreed because the player got a natural 20 on their persuasion to ask her to go on a date. So I have to prep a date between the open lord of Waterdeep and this tiefling warlock played by an 11-year-old boy. So that'll be interesting. But that's not the main thing we're going to work on today. We have a couple of other stuff we're going to talk about. So first of all, I should say a blanket Waterdeep Dragon Heist spoiler warning. If you are playing that game or plan on playing that game and don't want it spoiled, now is the time to leave the stream. If you are good with spoilers, that's cool. Stick around. I will give you maybe 30 more seconds before I start talking about the spoilers. While I take a drink of water. When I'm done drinking, the first thing coming out of my mouth is a spoiler. Ready? Okay, there's a submarine under the Hellraiser. Yeah, there's a spoiler. There you go. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with Waterdeep Dragon Heist, I have made some big changes to the way that it is written, and I'll kind of go through the super Spark Notes version of it right now. There are a million dragons. Hey, 2-Army Kid. Perfect place for a nat 20. Yeah, right? I totally agree. So there are a million golden dragons that have been embezzled from the city of Waterdeep by its former open lord, who in my version of the game is a gold dragon named Oranax. They took the gold and they hid somewhere in the city, and now the players have a lead that points them towards the location. That clue is called the Stone of Galore, and it is a stone that was once an aboleth, and it basically wants to get its lair back, which is the Vault of Dragons deep beneath the city. However, the stone was recovered by a group of loyalists who are still dedicated to the dragon. I'm using the Cult of the Dragon in this case, but again, a very homebrewed version thereof, to replace one of the villains in the adventure. The Centaurum are basically being replaced with the Cult of the Dragon. And they are loyal to the former Open Lord, who is this dragon, and they managed to pull the three eyes of, so the Stone of Galore, it looks like an aboleth's face. It's got three eyes on it. They have pulled the three eyes out of the aboleth, and the aboleth cannot lead the characters to the place, the Vault of Dragons, until it has all three of its eyes. So it's kind of a fetch quest right now for the party to run around Waterdeep and try to collect these three eyes, one of which ended up in the possession of the other two villain factions. So the Cult of the Dragon has one of the eyes. The Xanathar has one of the eyes, and Jarl Axel Baenri, posing as Zardoz Zord, has one of the eyes. Now, the party is currently in possession of two of the eyes, I think. They have one for sure that they got from the Xanathar, and they have one that they are in the process of stealing from the Cult of the Dragon, but they're kind of being pursued as they run away with it. But very soon they are going to have to go after this third eye. They have a lead on it. They had one scene where they went sniffing after it. They basically were given a lead by the Stone of Galore, who told them that the eye, it had overheard the Cult of the Dragon talking about sending one eye to the Six Masks Theater in, I think, the Dock Ward. So they went to the Six Masks Theater, and when they got there, they found none other than Laurel Silverhand, who is the Open Lord of Waterdeep. In my version, Laurel Silverhand is not chosen of Mistra or any of that stuff. I'm very kind of realms agnostic. She is just a former adventurer and the Open Lord of Waterdeep. They find her there, and she says that she is also here looking for the eye. But she worries she might have gotten here too late. They hear a noise in the rafters, and they see a, oh boy, zoom out there. They see a masked figure in a black cape scooting around, and they correctly identify the Black Viper, who in my version is basically a fantasy Batman. They are a masked vigilante that fights crime by night. So the party chases after the Black Viper as they go chasing across the rooftops. They do a rooftop chase. They finally corner her, and they rip off her mask and reveal none other than Laurel Silverhand, which was a great reveal in the session where it happened. So in my version, because Laurel was a retired adventurer, I'm having her basically work double duty as the Open Lord and the Black Viper. This notion that like she can't get everything that she wants done as the Open Lord, she can't through the proper channels. So at night she scampers around on rooftops and punches criminals. Right, very Batman Bruce Wayne. But it begs the question, if this is Laurel Silverhand, then who do they talk to in the theater? So they send the rogue back to go check it out. They have another conversation with Laurel Silverhand, and it's basically their disguise is outed. They don't reveal themselves, but they drop the voice, and they basically offer the rogue 10,000 gold if they'll betray the rest of the party. The rogue thought about this for a long time, ultimately decided not to, and then the fake Laurel Silverhand went on her merry way. And that's kind of where they left it. The only other clue that I have that they don't know is that Laurel, as the Black Viper, did manage to recover the eye from the theater, but that eye is not real. It is a fake eye that was planted by the disguised Laurel, who, of course, is Jarlaxle Banry. So the idea with Jarlaxle is he's just kind of... I don't really care about Luskin. I don't really care about what his actual motivations are in the adventure. What I care about is him as a compelling villain. And so I'm kind of just doing him as like a bored trickster, that he's this, extremely powerful rogue bard trickster character who just kind of wants to cause chaos and have fun because he's in retirement, has nothing else to do. So he's basically just kind of pulling strings randomly. There's not a lot of intentionality behind what he's doing here. And that's kind of what's fun. He's hard to predict in that way. So anyway, that means that Jarlaxle still has one of the eyes. So there's got to be, at some point here, the party is going to be pointed towards Jarlaxle. I have a plan on how to do it. But my question is more, what does Jarlaxle do? How does he react to kind of being like investigated? What does that kind of wing of the adventure look like? So we're going to look at the adventure here. Maestro's Fall is the kind of Jarlaxle themed portion of the adventure, and I want to just like comb through this for ideas. I don't necessarily want to use it as it's written, but I want to like pluck out little details that I like and then sort of cobble together a Frankenstein's monsters version of the adventure. So let's see. Facing him, investigating, they run into Jarlaxle. Take a kick in the door approach and storm the vessels. Right, he's disguised as this guy Zardoz Zord, which is this Sean Connery reference. So he intends to return the gold to Laurel, which I kind of think is interesting. Yeah, he's got this submarine. Okay. I can hinder him in a number of ways. Yeah, he's got the disguises on his ships. So... yeah, if they approach the ships... because they'll kind of get pointed in that direction, that there's something going on with the Sea Maiden's Fair in the dock ward. So they kind of get pointed over there. And there's like two of them that are anchored on the dock, and then one of them that's anchored further out in the harbor. Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. I like the idea of like everything's here. So let's write, this is what happened. This is what we know. What they know. And then we'll do investigating Sea Maiden's Fair. Let me know if like if you can see what I'm writing and stuff. Sometimes I'm bad at keeping track of what's visible and what's not. Investigating Sea Maiden's Fair. So 3 ships, 2 docked, 1 at anchor. I like that everything seems perfect too perfect, right? That like all of the, because the idea is all the sailors are drow, like disguised as sailors. So I like the idea that the sailors are very friendly and like everything's kind of has this almost like pod people like, hello, how can I help? Like, you know, just like a little too inhuman. Right, there's the different captains. Sure, so I like this. Each captain has like a weakness. Each captain has a weakness that can be indulged. Except maybe Tylan, I see. Okay. So yeah, they can get an audience with him. So I think that's part of it too, is that obviously Jarlaxle knows who they are, right? I could also see there being a thing where like, well, Jarlaxle knows that his disguise has been rumbled, so they wouldn't meet with him. That's fine. So he would basically wait for them to come to him, because he wants the other eyes, and he assumes that the party has them, right? Ooh, yeah, that's cool. So what if Jarlaxle's whole goal in, like, meeting the characters and greeting them is to get the Stone of Galore off them? Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So, goal. There we go. To invite the characters to dinner and then steal the Stone of Galore. So I love this notion of like, it's too easy to walk in, it's too easy to talk to them and to get a dinner with Zardoz Zord, right? Yeah, that's cool. I think that's in a different part of the adventure. Let me go look. I think that's in the Fireball chapter. There is some zoom happening outside. I think it's in here. Again, spoilers if you have not played it. Crime scene. Nim's secret. Finding Nim's creation. There he is. There's the bastard. Dark War distraction. Okay, here we go. So Zardoz Zord, owner of the Sea Maiden's Fair, has brought his 3 ships to Waterdeep. Docks are bustling chaotic. Caught aboard a ship. The crew tries to corner them until the ship's captain can have words with them. Nimble writes, characters who can who accept Zord's offer are shuttled by dinghy to his flagship. Okay. Upon arriving, the characters are invited to dine with Zardoz Zord. Like some excuse about his dinner plans going awry. Always happy to meet adventurers. Right, it's obviously a lie, but... So then they're rowed over there, right, like... shuttled by dinghy to his ship. Yeah, I love this description. The dining cabin is bedecked with gold filigree, the purple curtains festooned with silken tassels, the wood paneling scented with perfume. A magnificent feast laid out on golden platters sprawls atop a mahogany table of exquisite craftsmanship. Even the doilies are something to behold. It's always good to have a good doily. Standing behind it all with a wineglass in hand is a well-built, scantily clad man, his scarlet apparel designed to accentuate his trim figure and bountiful chest hair. A flashy rapier hangs from his stylish belt. And then, of course, you have to do like a Sean Connery, right? Because that's who plays him in that other... I don't know what the actual movie is that Zardoz Zord is from, but welcome aboard the Eyecatcher, he says, flashing his pearly white teeth. Zardoz Zord. How do you get it with an accent? Zardoz Zord at your service. Yeah, Zardoz Zord. That's like intentionally hard to say with like a Connery-esque Scottish accent. Zardoz Zord at your service. Crazy. So obviously this is Jarlaxle. So this isn't true then. Like he's not piqued their curiosity. Like maybe he has. Maybe they have, I guess. He doesn't know much about them yet and wants to determine whether they pose a threat. They don't. Right. To win them over, he shares the following information over dinner and wine. Okay, so this stuff is all good. Right, this is like the cover story. Okay, so it's just that. It's just like, if they mention the Stone of Galore, he shrugs his shoulder in a manner that suggests he doesn't know what they're talking about. He also feigns disinterest in Waterdeep politics. Yeah. They get, sure, so it's like goofily high wisdom. It's DC 24. He owns a hat of disguise, so he doesn't need to hide his true form while he's aboard the ship, right? That's why he doesn't have a hat. Can only be dispelled by destroying the ship's figurehead. If the character somehow discern his true form, Jarlaxle gives the party a slow nod of his head. Riley says bravo and lets them make the next move. He bids them farewell and sees they are escorted safely back to the docks. Okay, so yeah, pretty basic. So that's what it says there, right? Meet Jord. But I like the idea that he tries to steal the stone from them. So the really obvious thing, and chat, let me know if you have any ideas about this, about how Jarlaxle would get the stone away from the party. The really obvious thing, right, is to poison the food. But I think that they're going to be suspicious of that, so it's not like I couldn't kind of play with that or do that in some way, but I feel like at least one member of the party is going to be very suspicious about that idea, right? They are drow, so like sleep poison is definitely a thing in their wheelhouse. I don't think I have any elves. I have some half-elves. Half-elves aren't immune to magical sleep, are they? I don't think so, because they don't trance. So, I'm trying to think, how would Jarlaxle, like, pry the Stone of Galore away from them? I like the notion of sleep in some capacity. You know, it could just be that spell, and I don't think I do have one elf, but he's separated from the party right now. It'd be pretty unlikely that he would rejoin with them. It is weird that the drow would use sleeping toxins. You know? Because they're immune to sleep. So they can't use it on themselves. Is the point of it just to use it on a non-drow? I guess that makes sense. But that never occurred to me, right? They're immune to magical sleep, so why would they have developed a weapon they couldn't use on themselves? Interesting. Sniles of Latin. I mean, I guess it's interesting if you try to think of it like in the event of like a slave uprising, right? That they're like thralls couldn't use it on them. But again, that's that very, yeah. This kind of fellow seems like a guy who'd have a scented candle. Ooh, yes. That's definitely true to Army Kid. Scented candles. So maybe, yeah, maybe it's like a poisoned candle. It like burns incense. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Incense while they eat. So they're like really suspicious of the food. Oh, sorry, one sec, I'll mute. Okay, they're gone. It's the candle they need to watch out for. Oh. Yeah, they are slavers. I don't like that. I think that's dumb. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't like the drow in general. I like Jarlaxle as a character, but I find that to be lame. But yes, thank you, Charmy Cat. I appreciate it. Yeah, but I love your idea about the scented candle. I think that's exactly the right way to do it, right? Where it like just sort of burns on the air. Cool. I'm into it. So, let's see. Oh, they are immune to sleep. Huh. Shoot. So, I have a half-elf in the main party. But I think there's something fun about the idea of it knocking out everybody but the half-elf. And then Jarlaxle can, like, have a scene like, let's cut this shit kind of a scene, right? Like, that could be cool. I like that. So I think that's something you could lean into. And then the half-elf will, like, feel smart or feel cool that they're immune to magical sleep, right? Yeah, I love it. Once the party is asleep, Jarlaxle confronts, I think his name's Harlvin, is the warlock, half-elven warlock. Oh, yeah, for sure. I appreciate that too, Army Kid. Confronts Harlvin. Trying to think, like, about the stone. Surrender the stone, and you can all leave here alive and safe. I mean, I even kind of wonder, like, does he reveal his hand a little sooner, right? Like, yeah. Maybe it's a thing where it's a little bit complicated, but you could do a thing where, like, the candle creates like seeds them with like the sleep toxin, right? And then all he has to do is like say the word, and then they fall asleep, right? Like sleep, and they all drop if they fail their Constitution saves. Could be fun, because then he could just like say, "Hey, why don't you give me the thing? If you give me the stone, I will give you this amount of money." Right? Yeah, that's interesting. At some point in the dinner, Zardoz puts his cards on the table. Why don't you give me the stone? If you do, I'll handle the dragon, and you can get a cut. 1/3 sounds fair. If they refuse, he activates the sleep candle, and they all make Constitution saves. Constitution saves. Okay. Cool. So Harlan doesn't go, and they can have that scene. If attacked, he laughs it off and orders them escorted out of here. Worst case, he climbs into the submarine beneath the ship. Yeah, that seems like plenty for Jarlaxle to do, right? Like, they basically go have, like, a dinner with this guy. Yeah. I think that's cool. So let's do this. Move that up here. Jarlaxle. Goal. Cool. Let's talk about the date. Laurel Silverhand. Okay. So here are the details with this. This is what kind of complicates the date situation. Oh, can you guys still see that, by the way? Let me know if you can. Is that Laurel Silverhand, you know, obviously is an older woman. I would say that she's, in my version, she's probably like in her late 30s, early 40s. And I don't know how old. Zerai is the name of the warlock, which I thought was a cool name. Zerai. Male tiefling warlock. I think it's like Infernal Pact. The problem is that Zerai's player is an 11-year-old kid. Maybe he's 13. Right? So obviously this has to be like super PG. I think that the kid is like kind of just at that age now where the idea of like going on a date and like drama and romance is kind of appealing, you know? So like I think that's kind of what they're interested in. But obviously we have to keep things PG because, you know, I can't be running like actual romantic subplots for a 13-year-old kid. So like what is the, like, we could abstract it, definitely, you know, we could hand wave the whole scene. But I think there's like some wisdom in doing that, right? It's like way safer. But like that's no fun, and like that's not what he wants, you know. So we have to find some way to like strike a balance between it like feeling still like a date, and I think the answer to that is like to make it corny, you know what I mean, like kind of like cartoon date almost, where it's like roses and like music and like box of chocolate stuff, as opposed to having it feel too authentic. I think if it comes across as being like an actual relationship, it's gonna get weird, you know. So I like the idea that we kind of play up the humor of this, but I still want it to feel like it's in this fantasy world and this is the open lord, so she can go to the fanciest, nicest restaurant in Waterdeep, right? So all we have established so far is that the last thing that they said before they before Laurel took her leave of them was the tiefling asked, like, do you want to go out sometime? And he rolled his persuasion. He got a natural 20. And so I was like, okay. She says yes. She looks at him and she's like, I actually would like that. And then like keeps, and then she leaves the scene. So that's all we have established. I do have a meeting planned with them in the next session where she's like waiting for them at the mansion. They live in Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion, which is why it's called Mansion Heist. And I figured we could establish the details of the date there, where she can say like, hey, I have Wednesday free, kind of a thing, 8:00, that stuff, right? That's a good question too, Army Kid. Zerai asked them out, but I kind of think Laurel should take the lead. I don't really want the kid to set the terms of the date, you know? I kind of think that I need to. So I think it's got to be Laurel that, like, she's the open lord too, right? Like, she's not going to go to some scummy tavern that this guy goes to. So I like the idea that she sets the terms, right? So Laurel sets the terms when next they meet. So I think it's a fancy restaurant, right? I would love to get some details about this, chat, if you have any ideas for this fancy restaurant. I think it has some magical gimmick, right? There's something about it that, like, the reason it's like really popular right now. So yeah, it could either be like kind of a fad among the rich people, or it could be like this old established classic place. The other option is that it's like more of a rough and tumble kind of a thing, right? That she is a former adventurer, so maybe she would take him to the Yawning Portal or something like that. But that doesn't quite feel right. Like, I like the notion of high society kind of a thing, right? But I guess politically, would she do that? I don't know. Those are our three options, right? That it's like a fancy restaurant, like old and established. That it's like a gimmicky new restaurant. Some magical shtick. Is that how you spell shtick? I don't know. Or that it's like a she's kind of slumming it a little bit, right? Slumming it at a rough and tumble adventurer place. I think I'm most drawn to this one, to Fancy Restaurant, because I think that plays into our theme of it being sort of like corny romance more, right? Yeah, I like that. I almost have to like not take it at face value. Hey, what's up, David? Thanks for coming. So what's something like, I feel like it's in an old castle, right? There's like a lord's manor that's since been turned into a restaurant. So, you know, you like take a coach under a barbican, right? Expansive internal wall, like internal gardens. 0G restaurant. I think that definitely is like the gimmicky thing, right? But I kind of like the idea of it being this like very fancy, because I think that's part of the fun for him too, right? Is this notion of like dressing up and going out on the town as opposed to being like a scummy adventurer. Maybe there's a joke where like what if she like stiffs him with the bill? I kind of think that's funny. Like, what if the joke is that they go, like, she takes him to the richest place, like, or like the most expensive place in the city, right? Like this massive, you know, posh, like, you know, dinner club. And then she, like, they have this lovely time and they're chatting that's very elegant and refined. And then she, like, gets up to go to the bathroom and she just ditches him and leaves him the bill. I kind of think that's funny. Ooh, instruments that play themselves is cool. Yeah, that play themselves. So I'm going to write down the idea of a 0G restaurant, David, because I think that's cool if they do a second date and Zerai has to pick a place. 0G restaurant. How would you even eat in a 0G restaurant? Because the other thing about my version of Laurel Silverhand, right, is that she is posing as this famous rogue. Or not posing as, she's posing as the Lord Mayor, but she is actually this, like, famous rogue, right? She's posing as the Black Viper right now. So, like, I think her having a little bit of, like, a trickster element to it is cute. So yeah, she stiffs him with an exorbitant bill. You know, like just heinous. It's like 6,000 gold. You know, because like what kind of fancy stuff do they eat there? You know what I mean? He is the one who asked her out. Yeah, exactly, right? Like I like her being a little coy like that. With an exorbitant bill. Like 6,000 gold. Like something really silly. What's on the menu? Like what do you eat in this really fancy place? That's the gimmick? Yeah. Has this been shifting dishes? I mean, I think he would be like 6 months doing dishes. Yeah, that's really funny. I do love the idea of him having to talk his way out of it, and that they like send like a bounty hunter after him, right? That like this restaurant puts out a reward on his head. The game has a very like lighthearted feel, so I think I love the idea of them like, oh crap, like trying to dodge this this bill that he accrued. And it's this thing where it doesn't like, I think it's cool. I want the kid to have fun with this plot, but I don't super want to have there be a lot of romance plots in this game just because the kid's 13, you know, and like, I don't know. I just don't want anything to be misconstrued or weird. So I like the idea that like this is almost kind of a deterrent that like, hey, remember the last time you asked somebody out on a date? You had to pay this crazy bill. Yeah, that's very fun. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Castle Red Fox. I don't want to discourage him necessarily, not in a like an overt way, but I kind of like the idea of, and it makes sense for Laurel's character, and it's like a fun plot hook I can keep bringing back. It's like, oh no, we got to pay this huge bill. So what is on the menu? It's got to be like crazy magical food, right? Like why would it be that expensive? They get like some super old wine, right? Like Netherese wine, you know, like from this ancient empire. Netherese wine, you know, from an ancient fallen empire. The Mater D is the bounty hunter. I love that. Yeah. I'm totally into it. Especially if it has like a castle theme, right? That they're sort of like martial waiters. Yeah. What if like all the staff are animated armor, right? So they're like, yeah, that's cool. Ooh, a Gordon Ramsay NPC? That's cool. Oh boy, look at 2 Army Kid coming out with this stuff. Truffles. Ooh, Swallow's Nest. Yeah, okay, so let's write some of these ideas down. Our animated armor. I think everybody but the Mater D. And the Mater D is like a wizard, right? Who controls it all? How do you spell Mater D? Mater D. Wizard who controls it all. But like I love the idea of like, I will show you to your table, right? Like it's maybe a little silly, but the idea of like, you owe us 6,000 gold, like showing up in your apartment, yeah, is pretty funny. Comes after Zerai when he inevitably reneges, when he inevitably can't pay. Oh no. Gordon Ramsay is pretty hilarious. All right, let's write this menu down. So we have Iberian ham, but it's got to be like ham from like another plane, right? Like what's an animal on another plane of existence that they could eat? Like, you know, broasted arrowhawk or something like that. You know, they had to like import it from. What if they eat like giant space hamster or something, right? That's maybe a little silly, but like I like the idea of it being like pork or whatever, but it's from the elemental plane of fire, right? So it's like naturally cooked on its own juices, right? Ham or like pork from the elemental plane of fire. I should give them a menu with a couple of options, you know, and they're all goofy. And they definitely don't have any prices anywhere, right? Like, who knows how much it costs? And I like the idea of Laurel saying, like, don't worry about the price. Don't worry about it right now. Like, worry about it later. You know, we're here to have fun. Cooked in its own juices. In its own juices. I like the saffron ice cream idea. Truffles, for sure. I want to come up with like little magical things for each one of these. I actually don't know very much about truffles. I kind of wonder if it's like residuum ice cream. Right? It's like magical powder ice cream. Hydra meat. Ooh, Kraken calamari is pretty good. Yeah. Kraken calamari. I'm gonna say with a K. Calamari. There we go. I like the idea of Hydra meat. Yuck. Tarrasque steak. Where do they get that from? That's pretty funny. Yeah, I like the idea of Tarrasque as like Tarrasque sirloin. You know, that like it comes up every however many years and they kill it and then they butcher it and the steaks from the Tarrasque. Yeah, I think Tarrasque meat has got to be what it is. That's pretty great. But the appetizer is like Kraken calamari. Yeah, it's like all this like heinous imperialistic shit, right? I like residuum ice cream, that it's like inherently magical ice cream. Maybe it has some like minor wild magic effect when you eat it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, cool. Okay, that's all good. I like the idea of the animated armor. I like the idea of instruments that play themselves. Like everything is animated in the restaurant, right? Yeah, that's cool. Which is funny too, because like, why is it so expensive? Because they don't have to pay any staff. Like they just have to pay, you know, Bartholomew the maitre d' or whatever. Yeah, okay. And then she stiffs him with the bill. And I think that's the date, right? I think that's how it goes. And then if he wants to pursue her, then we can set up a second date. But I think they just go, oh, I want to do a little bit about like their conversation. Like, what do they talk about? Conversation. I think it's like very polite, right? It's like polite, friendly, kind of neighborly conversation. It never gets very like, anyway, we're not going to play it out, but it's like, what kinds of things does she talk to you about? You know, she stays coy. She doesn't like really flirt with him in any obvious way. It's kind of almost like business-like in a certain sense. Yeah, I love that. I love the Tarrasque steaks. Gorgon Ramsay is still very funny. Polite, friendly, neighborly conversation. I'm trying to think, like, is there some narrative thing we can do here? Like, obviously, you know, we can talk about the character's backstory, but she is sort of one of the movers and shakers here in the city, and she wants to get her hands on the gold, right? So is the point that she is basically trying to figure, because the party intends on betraying Xanathar, at least, right? Like, I think she uses this opportunity to like case him a little bit. Oh yes, a basket of holding. Bread basket of holding. Yep. That's so good. But it's gotta be bottomless breadsticks. Yeah. It's literally a bottomless pit of breadsticks. Bottomless breadsticks. Incredible. That's wonderful, David. That's great. To like case him and learn about the party's true intentions. True intentions. Okay, I think that's good. I think that's all we really need for the date, at least for now. Again, I don't really want it to be like a big belabored thing. And because he'll be on his own, you know, the more like screen time he gets, the more kind of neglected the other characters might feel. I could see it being a thing where maybe three of them, it's a 5-person party. One of them has been isolated for a long time and is basically working for the Xanathar. We're gonna talk about that in just a second. One of them is and one of them goes on this date, and then the other three can go do the Jarlaxle thing, right, if they need to. Okay, awesome. So that's that. Sweet. We've been going for about half an hour, about 40 minutes. I have 2 more little things I want to cover. This will be kind of a short stream. But like I mentioned, one of the characters basically got themselves hired by the Xanathar. It's complicated, but they convinced the Xanathar to give the eye to them because they, in exchange, would give the lair to the Xanathar, and that's what the Xanathar actually wanted. The gold was somewhat immaterial to the Xanathar. They just wanted this lair, which they discovered is because it's basically like a magical panopticon that lets them see the whole city. So they're obviously intending on betraying the Xanathar rather than actually, like, giving the lair to it, because the Aboleth also wants the lair. But one of the characters is working for the Xanathar right now, basically agreed to kind of be sort of a hostage, sort of a ward, right, like, of the Xanathar. And through some shenanigans, they managed to unseat what I call the Master of Sciences. The player is sort of like an inventor. The character is just a cleric, but the player loves to, like, make up their own little devices and has kind of a Minecraft brain. So I wanted to give this player, who's kind of an instigator, kind of a troublemaker, something to do, right? So I kind of engineered a plot whereby the Xanathar's current Master of Sciences, a Mind Flayer named Nilhoon, I think it's actually like Nilhur in the adventure, but I forgot in the moment and just said Nilhoon, and now that's the name of the Mind Flayer. And this is another Water Dragon Heist spoiler, so be warned. Nilhoon has a plan to turn the Xanathar into a mind witness under its own control, and it wanted the PC to be the one to put the thing in the put the little tadpole in the Xanathar's ear, eye, mouth. I don't know how you would do it. I guess ear. They have to have ears, right? He refused, and he basically reported this to the Xanathar, and so the Xanathar, like, chased the Mind Flayer out of the lair, but the Mind Flayer is currently, like, on the loose. So what we need to figure out, long story short, is, like, what is Nilhoon's plan? We know that Nilhoon, like, knows the ins and outs of the lair, that they're, like, secret passages that they know, obviously, and we know that they have this plan to turn the Xanathar into a mind witness through Ceramorphosis, and we know that they still have access to a handful of their intellect devourers that they had been using to gather information in this city. So Nilhoon also knows that the party is potentially intending to betray the Xanathar. They overheard a mental conversation that the Warlock was conducting with the party. They basically, like, eavesdropped on it. So my instinct is that Nilhoon goes to... Oh, yeah. Nilhoon goes to the party. The Mind Flayer goes to the party. And warns them that Plank is the name, is planning to betray them. Because this is actually somewhat true. So, as the Master of Sciences... the Xanathar approached Plank and asked him if he could make a bomb, like a smoke powder bomb, that they could put underneath the character's mansion, so that way if the characters betray the Xanathar, you know, they could blow up their mansion in retribution. And the player, who is essentially a member of the party, agreed to do this and is working on it. So whether or not the player actually intends to go through with this, I think it's reasonable that Nilhoon would either think that they're serious or would at least be willing to use that as leverage. So I think Nilhoon approaches the party and says, hey, you know, I tried to make a deal with your friend, but he is more loyal to the Xanathar than he is to you. He's now working on a bomb that he's going to put underneath the mansion and explode it. So Nilhoon will offer them a deal. Offers them a deal. If they can implant... Yeah, offers them a deal. Plank has likely told the Xanathar about the party's plans to betray it. If they can turn the Xanathar into a mind witness, then it won't be a problem for them anymore. Then it won't be a problem for them anymore. Nilhoon will simply take the mind witness away, back into the Underdark perhaps, and they'll be free to collect the gold. Yeah, I think that works. And then I think, like, if they say no, Nilhoon will attempt to use its last remaining intellect devourers to force the party to do it. Yeah, I think that works. That's cool. So he like shows up at their mansion because he knows where it is and like gives them this offer, and that doesn't work, then it's the intellect devourers. Okay. Cool. And so the last thing to talk about today, yeah, we're cruising. This might only be like an hour long. Is this category Master of Sciences. So Plank is Plank, the elf cleric, is now working as the Master of Sciences for Xanathar. So on the Discord last week, I posted, or a couple weeks ago, I posted some questions about what are some crazy inventions that the Xanathar might have, and he's investigated a few of them. He did kind of come up with his own idea. This was actually a really fun story. He wanted to make basically he wanted to make a sphere of annihilation. He wanted to make like an antimatter thing. And I had him roll like an Arcana check to like kind of draw up plans for it, and he got a natural 1. And so I said, yeah, you draw them up and you're really excited, and then like a little while later you realize that if you made this thing, it would destroy all of creation. And that was obviously my mistake, because that got him very excited, and he wanted to make it. And I'm like, well, okay, cool. You need a sphere of annihilation, you need this and that and that. You don't have the ingredients, but he has this thing. Another NPC took a look at it at one point, saw it, and was like, oh, and destroyed it. That way it couldn't be made. And so the player was like, oh man, come on. I want to like recreate my original formula. And I was like, okay, roll me another Arcana check, but only if you get a natural 1 can you recreate it. And he rolled and he got a natural 1. So he recreated his formula, and he now has at least a formula for this kind of like apocalypse doomsday device thing that if he makes will destroy all of creation, but he needs ingredients he doesn't have. I don't mind having him go dig for those or do whatever, but once the bomb is done, I would kind of like to have there be some other plot or some other thing he can do. He's been separated from the party now for about 3 sessions and is not expressing any desire to like regroup with them. So I have to basically just keep making kind of Xanathar related content for him while he's there. And that's fine. I don't mind doing that. I just want to make sure that it's still fun and not repetitive. So I think with Nilhoon kind of going to the party, I've got to come up with some other plot line down here in Xanathar's lair for the Master of Sciences. Once the bomb is in place, presumably there might be an opportunity for him to regroup with the party because he'll have to go plant it. And if the party knows about the bomb, they could potentially stop him from planting it, et cetera, et cetera. But if that for some reason doesn't happen or whatever else, I would like to have something in my back pocket I can throw at him for just like a little side adventure, a little hook. What's like another project that Xanathar could want done, or like some other intrigue inside the place? Because there's like the Dream Nullifier, right? Which is an interesting idea, and I kind of want to play with that. So the obvious thing would be like the Dream Nullifier is not working, or the Dream Nullifier is like on the fritz and it's like giving... Ooh, yeah, what if the Dream Nullifier is on the fritz, and instead of nullifying dreams, it gives them to Plank instead. When next he rests, dreams of a beholder and creates a spectator. Those are the little tiny ones, right? That follows him around. The player really likes like kind of companions and like lab assistants and stuff, so that might be a good way to do that. I like that. I think that's a fun little piece of content, but I'm realizing now as I write it that it is very passive, that it relies on him taking a rest. So he's got the bomb to entertain himself, and he's got a bunch of other toys in there, but the toys, again, rely on him to interact with them. I like to have something in my back pocket that is more about the plot. I wonder, like, does somebody else make a proactive strike against Xanathar? Like, does Jarlaxle, or maybe the Cult of the Dragon, like, goes down there thinking that they still have one of the eyes? Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, does, like, Xanathar's lair gets raided? Gets raided. By, oh yeah, sure, by the City Watch. Under the control of... So Manchun, I'm having as basically, like, the former vizier to the dragon, right? As opposed to being a Zentarum, he is the Aranax's vizier and is functionally the leader of the Cult of the Dragon. Looking for the eye. When they find Plank, they attempt to abduct him, recognizing him as a member of the party. Okay, so that's like a nice kind of like kick the door down thing I can do if I need it. But then I have the Dream Nullifier, and he's got the bomb, and he's got the rest of the toys. So I feel pretty good about that. Yeah, I think that's good, actually. I think that's about all I need. I know that was a short stream, not even an hour. But between the Jarlaxle stuff, right, and the Laurel Silverhand stuff, I think that's gonna be, and the Xanathar stuff, I think that's gonna be good for me. Because they've also got to get out of the situation they're in right now, where they've got the second eye in their possession, but they're being chased by the police who are in the pocket of the Cult of the Dragon. So they've got to get out of that situation, and then confront one of these other things. I've also got a whole subplot about, like, they don't just walk into the Sea Maiden's Fair. They have to kind of trace. I pulled this from the adventure, but they have to, like, find the nimble rights and do all of that stuff and go to the House of the Inspired Hands and things like that. So that might be... I mean, the amount of content I have is probably way more than I need. So this is good. Okay, cool. I think I'm feeling pretty strong about that then. That might be enough prep for today and for this week on this campaign. Great. I think that's all I've got, folks. Well, thank you so much for coming out and hanging out. I know it was a short one, but it was cool to kind of just get your... I especially loved everyone's ideas for the restaurant. That really, like, brought that... Ooh, we need a name. What's the name of the restaurant before I go? What is the name of this fancy place? They kind of like jokes, so I could do something with, like, Gorgon Ramsay, but I feel like I want something that's a little bit more in-world. You know, it has to be called, like, the Chateau or something like that. Something that, like, I don't want him to be, like, expecting chicanery when he gets there, right? I kind of want him to let his guard down and, like, relax and have this date and sort of think that it's real. So I think sort of the sillier it is up front, the less seriously he'll take it. So I like the Chateau. I like, yeah, I'm tempted to just do that because it means castle in French, right? Like, you could do, like, the donjon as well is kind of interesting, which is sort of cute if it's, like, the dungeon, right? Like, yeah, I like the donjon. The donjon. Fancy restaurant, old and established. So it's not a Lord's Mayor. I think it's like a castle. An actual defensible castle. A defensible castle. Reminds me of the Magic Castle in LA, if you've ever been there. Transformed into a high-end dining club. Yeah, great. Cool, the donjon. Perfect. Yeah, that's all I got, folks. Thank you so much for coming out. If you like this stream, obviously, please subscribe to the channel. We do streams on Tuesdays, and I'm trying to get back into the Sunday streams. I've had some busy Sunday evenings. I haven't been able to, but I really want to this Sunday. We're going to see if we can make it happen. I also stream over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/xpwebseries. I'm thinking about seeing if I can change that name, maybe doing, like, Timothy ProDM or something like that, because, like, obviously I love XP. I don't want to get rid of it, but I've encountered this before where when I go and interact in people's chats, they don't know if it's Kate or me, so I kind of want to maybe put my name in the Twitch channel. So that might change, but for now, it's still twitch.tv/xpwebseries. I was planning on streaming on Thursday. I didn't get a chance to, so I will hopefully be streaming this Thursday as well. But more importantly, if you like our content, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at XPWebSeries on Twitter, and I tweet a lot, mostly about world building and sometimes maps, but mainly monsters. A lot of monsters right now. Today we posted a monster that's basically like a giant rolling ball of fungus, which is fun. Yeah, you can also check, if you like the adventures I run and the games that I run, you can check me out on my website, which is ProDM.net, pro-dm.net. And there you can hire me to run games for you. This game is a hired game, right? This is for clients, and you could be the subject of an upcoming Adventure Prep stream if you ask Laurel Silverhand on a date. We'll have to do this whole thing again. You can hire me there. Thank you so much for coming out, everybody. Sorry for the short stream, and I'll be back later in the week. Have a good one. Happy adventuring.